Hello and welcome to the annual 212 Upfront panel. We are excited to have an incredible suite of guests that'll be joining the stage in a moment. But right now we're in the interview series. Tell them who you are, please.
Hi, I'm Dave Campanelli from Horizon Media. I head up all the investment teams at Horizon.
Fantastic. Dave, again, thanks for carving out time to join us. Upfronts, it's really about content. And if we're talking about content, we're talking about entertainment. What's on the TV in your home? What's entertaining to you and your crew?
You know, it depends on who I'm watching with. My daughter and I recently, she's 15 years old, we started watching Buccaneers on Apple TV. It's kind of like Gossip Girl set in the 1870s London, something like that. That's been fun. On my own, watching Fallout right now, and then wife and I are watching Game of Thrones, the new Game of Thrones on HBO Max. So a little mix of a bunch of stuff.
I love it. I'm sure some live sports and such peppered in here and there.
I watch my Celtics every time they're on.
He's in the belly of the beast. We are 2 blocks from Madison Square Garden dropping Celtics action.
That's right.
So 212 started as a digital advertising club. We've actually broadened everything we do, but there's still a lot of digital people to be tuning into this. So we're just coming in a new front season. We're 3 or 4 weeks away from upfront season, although it really surrounds us at all times. Can you help sort of compare and contrast the difference between new fronts and upfronts? What does it look like from your seat and your agency?
I would say, you know, over the years, they're getting more and more similar to each other. I think the new fronts used to be more tech heavy and the upfronts more content heavy. That's blending a bit now. I'd say the new fronts are still about tech announcements, innovations, and there is some of that in the traditional upfronts too. And that's still primarily a content, event to introduce a new content. But they're kind of mixing both a little bit. I'd say the new fronts are bringing more talent to the stage, and the traditional companies are bringing a little bit more data to the stage or innovations to the stage. So it's a little bit of a mix of both. They're kind of getting more and more similar, I would say.
Do you see a world where this comes together at some point?
I mean, yes. I mean, Google, for example, has a couple of events New Front, and they have Braincast. I don't think Amazon had anything at New Fronts this year. They're in the upfront, so yes, it's just blending more and more. NBC's had stuff at the New Front, so yeah, for sure. I think more and more you're gonna probably still have 2 events, but the lines between who participates and what will continue to blur.
Nice. And shout out to Amazon. Thanks for hosting us here today. And shout out to my company, Samsung. We had Mark Rober, who everyone's children loves and all the adults love too at our New Front. What do you think about kind of the concepts that made their way to the New Front stages? Were there, without calling out brands or partners, were there some thematics you thought tied together several of the New Front events, or what were the kind of crystallized takeaways?
I mean, I think one of the big themes is just the continued growth of video in the social space in particular, and how that rivals what's happening on the big screen of CTV and television. And listen, are they the same things? No, they're not the same things. Social video on a phone is different than professional content on a big screen. But they both have a role, and they're both fighting for the same kinds of dollars. So I think it's that discussion about where your dollar is best spent for which tactic you're trying to achieve. It's really, to me, about that growth of video, especially in the social space.
Love it. So with the upfronts coming up, and it being the topic of tonight's panel, let's talk a little bit about it. It seems as though upfronts and is still anchored by live sports, the cultural moments that you see occur. Is that here to stay? Probably. Do you see anything on the horizon that sort of begins to rival that for what drives scarcity and demand and attractiveness for brands to work with these content providers?
I think, if anything, the gap between live sports in particular and everything else is only going to get wider. I don't see anything catching that. And I think the difference that we're really going to see is sports becomes and really maybe already has, but becomes the day part, and streaming or linear makes no difference. All right, we're buying Thursday Night Football on Amazon, we're buying Sunday Night Football on NBC. Literally makes no difference the delivery method. It's the same experience to the audience and for the advertiser. So I think what it does is it really puts us in a world of live and on demand, and I think that's where the world will split. These big live events, whether they're sports, and not all big live events, but news, sports, the liveness of whether it's streaming or broadcast versus on-demand nature of mostly streaming. I think that's where the split comes instead of linear versus streaming.
Great crystallization. Do you mind if we unpack sports for another moment, unscripted?
Sure. Yeah.
You're discussing sort of the dimensionalization of it. Where does shoulder content, sports that are more about fandom than three-letter leagues, does that sort of have a moment on the horizon potentially?
Yeah, so we're really trying to rethink how we surround presence in live games. And it used to be you're airing in the game, you want to be in the pregame, you're in the postgame, you're in Sports Center, and you're baseball tonight, whatever. And there's still a role for some of that stuff, but we know a lot of that consumption, the consumption of highlights, the consumption of anything that's not in-game is happening on other channels. It's happening in social. It's happening a lot of different places. So one, it's, hey, we want to surround the NFL. We want to be in the NFL. We're buying NFL games. Where else can we surround it, whether that's on TikTok or YouTube or X or wherever. So we're really thinking about NFL, not just can I buy the game and then whatever programming NBC or Fox has, but what else can I buy to surround that? So I think that's one. The other area is creator space is so rich, and creators involved with sports is really a growing area. So we're really leaning into a couple and exploring a couple areas there where we feel like that's kind of like a next big thing is creator-led sports events and or leagues. And that can be gaming, but really traditional sports too. I think that's an interesting area that's really starting to bubble up now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. For any of you people who call on Horizon Media, you get a roadmap there. They'll have the insight on how to approach your team with great new ideas, which is trying to foster this education. Maybe predictions. What do you see, or I guess you don't know what the Upfront's going to be yet because we haven't had the presentations, but you probably had some previews. Are there any things you expect to kind of bubble up similarly, kind of horizontally across the presentation, some overall thematics you have either heard about that you can share or would predict will come to the fore?
I did just read something today about someone who was at an AI conference of some kind saying it was stupid to try and predict the future, but I'll give it a little bit of a shot. The boring answer is sports. It will be a focus of everyone's presentation. Even those that are smaller players in sports now, like Warner Brothers Discovery that lost the NBA, it'll be a part of their presentation. They're still building out what they can do in sports. So it is the driving factor in the marketplace right now, and will continue to be, again, moving forward. And it's going to be the focus of a lot of what it's all about.
Amazing. Thank you for your time. It's been great to chat with you. I appreciate all you shared, even though I had a couple questions there that were just sort of like on the cuff. But you rolled with them. We're very grateful.
Yeah,
please enjoy the panel tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.